Hello and warm welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here, and today we are going to talk about a prelims question, the question number 4th of set A. We'll cover it fully, see the source of the question, where was it asked from, see the solution of the question and how we could have solved it. We'll also see why it was asked. We'll see its relation with the 2020 PYQ and where is it mentioned in the standard books. The question talks about three things: the arable area, irrigation and productivity in context of agriculture. Comparing two countries, India and China. Alright, so let's talk about this question. The question basically mentions three statements comparing India and China and keeping India higher in all three aspects in terms of arable area. Second thing is a proportion of the irrigated area. Proportion of irrigated area. And third is the average productivity per hectare. Average productivity per hectare. So it puts India higher in comparison to China in all three aspects: arable area, irrigated area and average productivity per hectare. It also asks us that how many of the above statements are correct. So again the pattern is repeated, where the UPSC has not given us that statement A and B are correct and C is wrong, or C and B are correct and A is wrong, or in such a manner. It just asks us that how many of the following statements are correct or incorrect. So we need to be very sure about which statement exactly is incorrect. Which statement is incorrect or correct in the same manner. So let's begin the discussion about this question. So this question has come from Indian geography as the major topic, and the subtopic is agriculture in India, and subtopic is distribution or utility of the resources, especially the agricultural resources. In a pattern, it asks or talks about the arable area. That means the base of agriculture. Then it talks about the irrigation, which is an input factor, and then it talks about the productivity. So these are the three things that make agriculture possible. You have to have the field for it or ground for it. You may have to have the irrigation for it, and then the productivity, which is the output. So it talks about both input and output. Let's now see what are the important pickups from this question. One is the arable area. The pickups are the words that are important in the question and which give out necessary information to us in order to solve this question. These words are also very important to know the meaning of. Without knowing the meaning of them and without noticing them actually in the question, we will be completely unable to solve the question. Alright. So the first word is arable area. Now we must know what is arable area. Arable area simply means the area of any geographical region which is fit for cultivation. And cultivation of any sort should not be barren. Alright. Second thing is irrigation. Irrigations means supply of water through any resources, whether it is groundwater, running water, river water, etc. in order to facilitate the input and productivity. Or support the crop growth through extra water. The third word that it mentions is a proportion. The meaning of proportion is rather important for us to know, because it does not talk about the portion directly, it talks about the proportion. So what is proportion? Pro means earlier, and portion means to divide. So proportion means two things: that the state of a division before the division itself. Let's say this slice of this total area is 1 of 3 or 33%. Now if they were 6, then the same 33% would have consisted of 2 slices. So it remains proportionally same. So what is proportion? It's basically a fixed ratio when two things are compared. Or a ratio that is fixed to its compared self. That means what is 1:2 is equal to 3:6. So these ratios are proportionate but not same. Alright. The fourth thing that it talks about is productivity. So it's basically output in comparison to input, and the overall output as well. Alright. Fourth thing is average per hectare area. So it talks about the average. That means in terms of India, let's imagine this is India's map. So it talks about the average. It may look a little illusionary to think that some regions of India are producing greater amount of crops. When we talk about West Bengal, when we talk about Odisha, Haryana, Punjab, and in the central sector of India especially, then quite a lot of amount of crops are being produced. But it talks about the average area or average productivity. Second thing, it says per hectare area. That means the same area in India that is arable, and the same area in China that is arable, if we divide it into the squares of 100 meter by 100 meter area, then the productivity in the India is more than China on an average. So this is the meaning of the question. So some things might have cleared out even now, right now to you directly. So three things that it discusses is arable area, irrigation, and third thing is productivity. So almost everything would have been clear to you now if you know a little bit about the economy and agriculture. So first, two things you see, they are counterproductive to each other. If the arable area is naturally more, this means irrigation is not much required here. And if irrigation is much required, then the area is not naturally arable. Such as you might have seen in the drier countries like Israel, they have gone through cloud rains or cloud raining also, or UAE. So drier countries, arable area is not much. So they discover the new means of irrigation in these countries. So these two things are rather counterproductive, not exclusively, but rather. And the third thing, when we talk about the productivity, then it also depends upon irrigation as well. Irrigation, the factors, other factors, such as technological advancement, use of fertilizers. So let's see this also. One more common sense thing. That means if arable area is overall less and still a large economy is growing, that means productivity should be higher in this less arable area instead of this high arable area. So let's take all these things into the consideration. The theme of the question is basic knowledge of agriculture and comparison of Indian agriculture system with at least its neighbors. So this is also a chapter in the NCERT. So we'll see this. Let's move forward. Also, let's see what is its relation with the 2020 PYQ. So consider the following statements that 36% of India's districts are classified as overexploited or critical by the Central Groundwater Authority. Again, CGWA was formed under the Environment Protection Act 1986, and India has the largest area under groundwater irrigation in the world. So you must have solved this PYQ when preparing for prelims. This is in the last 3 years only. So answer must be known to you already, but let's see. So let's just figure out the answer. So out of 5,723 assessments unit jointly assessed by the state groundwater departments and CGWB in the country, as per the report of Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog, very important body. The following is the data that safe, semi-critical, critical and overexploited. So statement 1 is not correct. It places 37% here. Usually in the elimination techniques, we are taught that if a question is giving a specific data, it must be correct. It's giving a very specific data, 36% are critical or overexploited. So here elimination technique fails, let's say. Okay. CGWA was constituted under Section 3 of the Environment Protection Act. So it's a non-constitutional body. Statement 2 is correct. It regulates the extraction of groundwater through guidelines that are updated regularly. And third thing is 39 million hectares, 67% of total irrigation. India has the world's largest groundwater well-equipped irrigation system. So there's a lot of irrigation taking place in the India. All right. And a lot of it is groundwater irrigation. And China is second. The USA is third. Pakistan and Bangladesh are at 4th and 5th respectively in the largest groundwater reserves and irrigations. Okay, so let's now come to the chapter which from where it has been asked. So the chapter is class 11th, chapter 10 of the NCERT geography. So comparative development experiences of India and its neighbors. So it is talking about the development experiences. Experiences means past to present. So China is a well-known tertiary sector economy now. But it started from the agrarian era. And same is with India. Secondary and tertiary sector economy now. It started with the agrarian era. So let's see what were the experiences here and what was the difference here. So the specific sections it talks about the China and India is this. Just a second. Okay. So Pakistan has more proportion of urban population. Okay, it talks about the China here. So in China, due to the topographical and climatic conditions, the area suitable for cultivation, that is the arable area, is relatively small. So arable area China is smaller than India. Only about 10% of its total land area is arable. So this is a figure that you would have known already. Just a second. Okay, so we were talking that the area suitable for cultivation is relatively small. Only about 10% of its total land area is suitable for cultivation. The total cultivable area in China accounts for only 40% of the cultivable area in India. So this solves the statement 1 for us. The solution was already present in the NCERT. Just a second. Alright. So the area that is arable in China is equal to 40% of the arable area in India. So statement 1 is correct directly from the NCERT. Okay, let's come to the second statement, which talked about the irrigation facilities. So irrigation is more in India, as we saw from the PYQ, than China. Lot of irrigation depends on, cropping system depends on the irrigation in India. And only 10% of the China's area is arable. That's why naturally irrigation becomes lesser. Okay. Now let's talk about the third statement. When we come to productivity. So two statements were interconnected somewhere, the arable area and irrigation. But we don't know about the productivity. So let's see about it, what NCERT says. Okay, one more thing, when you solve the question in prelims, don't go with the updated World Bank data or any other indexes. If the answer is ready-made present in the NCERT, then rely on that. Alright. Okay, so what NCERT says about this third statement, that it was mentioned in the previous pages that agriculture has been practiced in India for thousands of years. Sustained use of land without compatible techno-institutional changes have hindered the pace of agriculture development. That means it talks about the challenges that Indian agriculture faces. What are that? Technology and institution. Institution comprises both policy, implementation and infrastructure. Market accessibility to the farmers, economic inclusion. So these are the factors which have reduced India's productivity despite having a large arable area. So in spite of development of sources of irrigation, most of the farmers in large parts of the country still depend upon monsoon and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. So this is the source for our third statement, that we still rely on the natural fertility and monsoon. So agriculture, which provides livelihood for more than 60% of its population, needs some serious technical and institutional reforms. Thus collectivization, consolidation of holding, so etc. So this NCERT is basically telling us that despite having a more arable area, despite having more irrigation, we lack in the productivity sector. So India has taken many reforms. India has taken recently many reforms in order to increase productivity also. There is economic inclusion, policy changes, such as literacy camps about agriculture, use of fertilizer, use of pesticides. New fertilizers have been developed, such as liquid nano urea. And there is fertilizer subsidy also. So right now, even in the 2023, 2022 or this decade, the productivity remains the main feature or the challenge that is involved. Let's now talk about the third statement finally. So regarding productivity per hectare, as per the data till 2021, productivity in Chinese agriculture is generally higher than that in India. A range of factors including the mechanization of agriculture, that means they have more machines. Extensive use of fertilizers. This has right now even become a problem in India, especially in the regions of Punjab. And advanced agriculture practices, which we do not have right now, pan India, contribute to China's higher productivity. So it tells us that statement 1 and 2 are correct, and 3 is not correct. So let's see why it was asked. It was asked for your knowledge of agriculture, your knowledge of geographical resources, and simply seeing if you read NCERT or not. So all of the statements are mentioned in NCERT itself. Alright, let's now also talk about some crops which are mentioned in NCERT exclusively, which keep coming year after year and which you need to know about, such as tea, coffee. Both these came in 2022 also. The rubber board also came. Sugarcane, often asked. Banana, not much asked, but these 4 are very exclusively asked. Wheat, barley, peas, gram, mustard. These are the crops which have been mentioned name-wise in the NCERT. And they are often asked in every prelims. Cucumber, vegetables, fodder crops, rice, wheat, millets, etc. Sugarcane, oil seeds, cotton. Cotton is often asked, very much asked. In the last year, 2022, also cotton was asked. Rice was also asked. Groundnut, mustard, coconut, soya bean. So these things are often asked. All right. So let's see what do we learn from this question. First learning is to read NCERT thoroughly, because it can be asked, the data can be asked. Focus more on topics which are connected. This topic was not only connected to agri, it was also connected to the development or economic development of India and other countries, or at least its neighbors, and the present challenges involved in the development or economic development of our country. The solution of the question already mentioned. Statement 1 is correct, 2 is correct, 3 is not correct. So only 2 statements are correct. All right. So this was today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Yatharth here signing off. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video. Keep studying and have a bright day.